Hello, internet fans, and welcome to 3B Video. I'm your host, Rotten Roger DeMarco, and today we're going to be ranking the Elm Street franchise. Why? Because I want to. So I figured, let's just run through the franchises, give you guys a ranking, see where you agree and where you disagree. And I do want to say that my opinions are exactly that. They're just opinions. This isn't to determine which film is the worst or which film is the best in that traditional sense of ranking. This video is to rank it by watchability for me specifically. Because I love every film in this franchise, there are just certain films that I watch more. So that's how I do it, because I don't hate any of these films by any means. But anyway, enough of the disclaimer. Let's get on with the list. Let's get on with the chlorophyll. That's a Billy Madison reference. Deep cut. Okay, so coming in at number 9, the very bottom of the list for me is the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. Yeah, I gotta admit, I wasn't the biggest fan of this film when it first came out, and to be honest, I'm really still not the biggest fan of this film. However, every time that I watch this film, I do see something else that I like just a little bit more. And Evil and I discuss this movie a lot. There are a lot of things about this movie that are really well done, but then there's some other things that are just mind-bogglingly bad, like the CGI coming through the wall and stuff like that. Not that great. I do like the kid who's always sad, Quentin. I like that kid. I bet he's still somewhere being sad right now. So moving on to number 8 on my list is Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, The Dream Child. I mean, this movie is super awesome, but it has the lowest body count in the franchise, I believe. We don't get enough murder and mayhem. The Freddy makeup is purposely an older, sadder Krueger. Plus you have the derpy kid from Jurassic Park and Mikey playing Alice's son. And I just tend to not watch this one as much. It's very quotable, don't get me wrong.
I thought it was up to, Yvonne! Hey, Dan, better not dream and drive!
That voice is tough on the voice, and we all wanted to be Mark. We all were that kid, but it's lower on my watch list. Moving on to number 7 is Freddy vs. Jason. It counts. It's more of a Freddy movie than a Jason movie anyway, and I covered this movie already on my Friday the 13th ranking. I love this movie even though it has a million things wrong with it and it's just exposition, exposition, exposition. I love it because it is just this ridiculous popcorn movie, and the whole reason for it is to get these two icons to fight. But as far as it being a Freddy movie, it does delve a little bit more into the Weston Hills Hospital, and it gives us a cool rundown of where Freddy has been since Freddys Dead, I'm assuming. But as far as the Elm Street franchise as a whole, this is down there. Plus, Ronnie Yu directing this movie, having never seen a Friday the 13th movie or an Elm Street movie, doesn't make a lot of sense. Kind of like letting him direct Bride of Chucky, but I digress. They both got made, didn't they? So I should probably just shut the fuck up. And coming in at number 6, Don't Shoot the Messenger, is Nightmare on Elm Street 1, the original. And just like in my Halloween ranking, I'm gonna stop you and I'm gonna say, yes, without this film, the others wouldn't have been made. This film itself is nearly flawless. It's an amazing film. It's the intellectual property that got the ball rolling. It is the film that built New Line Cinema, technically. I love the original Elm Street movie a lot, but as far as the funnest entry in the franchise, or the one that I watch the most, it is not. But it's just not the funnest one for me. Is it the best in the franchise? Probably. Can't argue with that. The character of Freddy becomes less scary and more fun towards the middle of the franchise, and that's what I like. So that's why Part 1 is right here in the list. Moving on to number 5 is Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddys Revenge. This movie gets a ton of hate, and I will never understand why. Yes, it has some glaring issues, but I really enjoy the relationship between Jesse and Grady. They are fantastic together, and it just feels like a real, buddy relationship. And I just think that this movie is super silly. The things that don't work for this movie work for me. Like Freddy attacking everybody at the pool in real life during no dream sequence. It's so stupid and silly and Robert Englund is like 5'7", running around slicing at 6'3" football players, and it looks so dumb, but there's something about that scene that is just awesome to me. It's just super fun, and again, that's what I gravitate towards, is this super fun stuff. Plus, dogs with baby faces. I mean, what is happening in this movie? I don't know, do you? But I love it. So moving on to number 4 is Freddys Dead, The Final Nightmare. Curse you, internet, for hating on this movie. This movie is a Looney Tunes cartoon put to life with a child molesting murderer in a striped sweater. Nintendo references, gratuitous weed smoking, Wizard of Oz references, heads exploding, a literal bed of spikes. I can go on forever about how great this movie is. And all the reasons why I think it's great, basically all the reasons why the internet hates it. So, I understand you guys, I hear you guys, I just don't care. This is fun. This movie is so much fun, and it really hit at a perfect time for me as a kid, and this movie sort of catapulted me into the horror genre. Had it not been for Freddys Dead coming out, and New Line Cinema doing a Freddys Dead promotional tour or push, I would have never got to stand in line for 6 hours and meet Robert Englund, and it changed my entire life at 6 years old. So I owe this movie a lot. And again, this was a movie that my parents were comfortable enough to let me watch at 6 years old. And it's a child molester, but it changed everything for me. So regardless of how the internet feels about Freddys Dead, I love Freddys Dead. And that's why it's ranked number 4 for me. Moving on to number 3, Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Yeah, buddy. Freddy is back in leather pants, in a trench coat, murdering people in real life. This movie got a bum rap, I feel like, when it came out. People were expecting Campy Krueger back, and they didn't get that. They got this Wes Craven self-referential meta horror film, and I think by the time this came out, the audience for Freddy was primarily younger children. So they were expecting silly Campy Krueger, and when this movie came out, they were like, oh shit, this is serious, this is slow. This is a slow burn horror film that's smarter than previous installments. So I think a lot of people just turned their nose up in the air at this movie and said, nah. But now, as the years have gone by, people have started to appreciate this movie, and it's awesome to see the world kind of catch up with how great this movie really is. It's scary. It might be scarier than the original film, in my opinion. But also, being a parent and having children, now I'm on the other side of that coin. I'm not watching the film from the perspective of a 20-year-old kid or even a 6-year-old kid. I'm watching this film from the perspective of a 30-plus-year-old parent of 2 who would do anything for his kids to not get hurt or for them to not feel fear. And that works on such a great level, so much smarter than it's given credit. And I love this movie. So if you haven't rewatched Wes Craven's New Nightmare or given it a fair shake, now's the time, and now's the place, if you know what I mean. So coming in at number 2 for me is Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. This is normally everybody's go-to. This is everybody's favorite, and I'm not far off. I love this movie. It kind of explores the dream lore a little bit more, gives us these dream powers, and lets the teenagers all kind of team up and take it to Freddy. And also, this might be the last time Freddy was truly terrifying. This is when things started to shift, and he started to be a little bit more funny. There's the Dokken music video and all of that hoopla. But I don't really see Part 3 as a campy movie. I see Part 3 as still pretty intimidating and pretty scary. But this is where we're getting that shift. We get introduced to a really unique, diverse core group of teenagers who are bothered by this dream demon. And then we get Nancy coming back, and we get all of this great stuff in this movie, and it aged really well, and it stands the test of time. You've got just the total package of a movie, from likable characters to a terrifying villain to amazing effects, all of these things which catapulted it towards the top of my list. 99.9% of the internet would agree that this is the best Elm Street film, and I can't argue with that. It's up there. That's why it made number 2 for me. Which means that coming in at number 1 for me is Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master. Motherfucker, do I love this movie. Yes, I'm aware that the plot is extremely thin. There's a lot of things wrong with this movie, but what we do get is the surviving Dream Warriors coming back. We get new characters introduced to the Freddy lore, even though it doesn't make a lot of sense. Living in a town where a mass murderer is famous, you would think that all 17-year-olds would know that legend. It just doesn't seem logical, but we'll let that slide. We'll let that slide. But what we do get is a kick-ass soundtrack. We get fantastic effects by Screamin' Mad George. Arguably the greatest Freddy Krueger look across the board. When anyone thinks of Freddy Krueger, this is the look. You think of Jason, you think of Part 7 Jason. You think of Freddy Krueger, you think of Part 4 Freddy. The height of Freddy Mania. MTV was massive. Fat Boys music videos, Dokken music videos, fucking a TV series. A child molester got a TV series. Wrap your fucking brain around that. That's how lovable and how fun they made Freddy Krueger. And this is the epitome of that. Sunglasses, one-liners, punk music, a ridiculously bright color palette. A lot of Krueger throwing around the term bitch. Part 3 and Part 4 is where this whole bitch thing originated from. And I just feel like at this particular point in time, New Line was throwing everything they could into the franchise. Robert was giving it his all before he got burned out. This was where the franchise kind of like hit the skids. You know, Robert having to be in the makeup day in and day out to do the TV series and stuff. Then the franchise kind of fell apart and it died for a few years. You know, people forget that we didn't have Krueger for a few years after Part 5. But this movie is just everything to me. We get karate, we get a nunchucks montage, we get a weightlifting montage, we get all of this crazy shit, plus we get a dog pissing fire to resurrect Freddy. Problematic? Yes. Awesome? Yes. I love Part 4, and that's why it had to make my number 1. Let me know how you rank the franchise in the comments below. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, all of that traditional YouTube hooplallery. And also check some of the links down below with our sponsors, our Patreon, all of that crap. But I suppose I should probably get going because, after all, there's a lot of movies out there and somebody's got to watch them. So why not me, right?
Kung Fu this, bitch! Ha 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 ha!